There has been a whole lot of buzz amongst horror fans about Osgood Perkins' Longlegs, which is finally hitting theaters on July 12th. So, I got to see this one at a 10 a.m. press screening, and I gotta say, that was pretty wild. When you're a film critic, you get used to seeing these kinds of ultra-dark, nihilistic horror movies at deceptively sunny times of the day. Heck, I'll never forget watching Ari Aster's Hereditary at the ungodly hour of 8:30 a.m. at the Sundance Film Festival, and after being badly shaken by the terror on screen, walking out the door to a sunny festival full of young folks in ski jackets, happily going about their business. And Longlegs was a very similar experience. So, in this one, a newly minted FBI agent, played by Maika Monroe, winds up becoming embroiled in the pursuit of a serial killer named Longlegs with ties to the occult. So, as I said, this is directed by Osgood Perkins, who happens to be the son of perhaps the most iconic figure in horror of all time, Psycho star Anthony Perkins. That's right, Norman Bates himself. And I gotta say, Osgood's dad would be proud, because I gotta say, he has crafted one of the darkest and most nihilistic horror movies I've seen in years. A fellow critic actually turned to me as the credits rolled and asked me, "Dude, we just watch a classic?" Well, it's definitely too early to say whether or not that's true. I nevertheless found myself deeply shaken by this nightmarish thriller. However, your enjoyment, that's even the right word, of Longlegs really depends on going in relatively fresh. So for the sake of avoiding spoilers, I'm going to have to stick to only the bare bones elements of the plot, as previously revealed by Neon. I'm not the kind of critic that's going to spoil this movie for you. You really need to experience it for yourself, especially if you're a horror buff, because things that get you this unsettled, as far as horror films go, come along pretty rarely, and yeah, you got to take full advantage of this one. But don't worry, this is going to be a relatively safe review as it goes on. So the movie, you see, is divided up into chapters, and somewhere around chapter 3, it takes a bit of a hard left that turns into something quite different from what the studio is selling. But I gotta say, this was all to my delight. As it is, Longlegs is a slow burn, with it character and atmosphere driven. One could classify it as part of the new wave of elevated horror, with Perkins, who's already made a name for himself in indie horror with his previous films, including I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. This will put him in the upper echelon of genre directors, with the film proficient in the same way something like Seven or Silence of the Lambs was, although Longlegs ultimately has a lot less in common with either film than you might think. Maika Monroe is another great part as an uneasy FBI agent named Lee Harker, who occasionally finds herself almost supernaturally attuned to the crime scenes she investigates, with her boss, another agent played by Blair Underwood, calling her half-psychic. Monroe has been the darling of indie horror for years, thanks to her iconic roles in The Guest and It Follows. But I have to say, she also delivered a largely unseen but quite excellent performance in last year's God is a Bullet. She plays Harker as quiet and unassuming, and possibly even on the autism spectrum, with her cold and collected at the various horrific crime scenes she investigates, and some of them are, grotesque. She's ably supported by Blair Underwood, who plays a warm family man agent who tries to get her to open up a bit, while Alicia Witt delivers a truly knockout performance as Harker's devoutly religious mother. Seriously, Longlegs should go a long way towards re-establishing Alicia Witt as an A-level character actress, with her role ultimately proving to be one of the movie's most unforgettable elements. As for Nicolas Cage, well, Neon's been careful not to give away his look or his voice, but suffice to say, this is the actor as you've never seen him. How can I best describe what he's going for in this movie? Imagine a satanic, hideous 70s glam rocker. Cage seems to relish playing such an evil character, but to dig more into his performance would be a disservice to you potential viewers, as again, you have got to go in fresh. Another element of the movie that should be singled out is the incredible production design and art direction, with this one of the most atmospheric horror films in recent memory. The sparse score by Zilgi, who I could find very little information about online, is appropriately dread-inducing. To note, as far as legitimate scares go, Longlegs by design is a slow burn. Rather than knock you over the head with moments that are designed to make you jump, the movie instead very slowly builds up a sense of dread, which becomes incredibly potent as Longlegs comes to its conclusion. Once the credits rolled, I found myself surprisingly shaken up by what I'd just seen, and it's a film that I'll need to chew on in the weeks to come. Expect this one to make some pretty major waves among horror fans when it opens. Will it be considered a new classic? Time will tell, but for me this was a pretty dazzling piece of work, and I give it a strong 9 out of 10.